Yo, listen up, Rue is stepping up the game, where fantasy Premier League runs in his veins. From transfers to captains, he's always on top, guiding you through every game week non-stop. They say Rue got that Salah flow. Welcome to the channel, enjoy the show. Wild cards, free hits with so much vibe. If you're hunting for success, then make sure you subscribe.
G'day mate, welcome back to the channel. I'm FPL Root and welcome back to another FPL video. So in today's video, we're going to be going through the perfect bench boost draft you can build for game week 1. So I know a lot of people have actually decided to play the bench boost in game week 1, and I completely understand why. I think the fact that there's not going to be as many games cancelled because of the FA Cup, there's not going to be as many double game weeks this season, I think it does make sense. You can build a squad you know is going to start. You can basically, yeah, fill out your squad evenly, make sure your bench is strong, all from game week 1, get it out of the way, get a little boost so you're kind of high up the ranks, high up your mini leagues, and then go from there. Almost like a little booster of your points and a booster chip. And I think it could be a really, really nice strategy to go for. We'll start off with the goalkeepers of this team though. So I've gone for Flecken and Raya. So I know the bench boost is just for 1 game week, but I think you have to consider quite a lot of the game weeks, and I think the fact that Raya is a very, very good goalkeeper, he had an incredible season last season, he comes in at 5.5 million this season, he's just over 22% owned now, and 16 clean sheets last season was incredible. He should have got more, obviously, because Ramsdale did actually start the season for Arsenal, so who knows how many he could have got if he did start. Arsenal have Wolves at home, which for me is a very, very nice fixture for the first fixture. And like I said, we know how good Arsenal are defensively. We've also gone for Flecken, so 4.5 million, just over 13% owned. Last season for Brentford wasn't the best in terms of defensively. Clean sheets, 7 they got, or Flecken got. And they've got Palace at home the first game. So not the best fixture for Brentford, don't get me wrong. But I think the fact that they have decent fixtures when Arsenal have bad fixtures is a big kind of consideration. So for example, because we've got to look more than 1 game week. So in game weeks 4 and game week 5, they have tough fixtures, but you can definitely take out Raya, who has obviously Spurs and Man City away. You can take out Raya and go for someone else just to save that bit of money. Yes, it's not ideal making goalkeeper transfers, but I think if you're going to play the bench boost early on, I think this is the way you got to play. And then somehow you can, I guess, save the money and go for someone else later on down the line. But I think for now, this is a good solid start to go with. Let's get on to the defence. So with the defence, I probably had to be a little bit more cautious than I was, I guess, with the goalkeepers. Because with the goalkeepers, I know I only really need 1. And you're not going to need 2 good goalkeepers for long. Potentially, you might want to downgrade Raya if you need the money, or get rid of Flecken, or downgrade Flecken to a 4 million goalkeeper. That is your choice at a later date. But with the defence, I wanted to build a defence for this bench boost with actually I guess with 1 thought in mind, that it was going to be solid for the next few game weeks. We'll start off with Pedro Porro though, talking about the bench boost. 5.5 million. Leicester away he's got, and he's just owned over 25%, which is a big, big mark. Porro had a very, very good season last season. He only got 3 goals, 8 assists, but he should have got more goals, to be totally honest with you. I'm a Spurs fan, and Porro should have definitely got more goals. Clean sheets is a bit of a struggle, don't get me wrong, but potentially this is only for a couple game weeks where you do kind of transition out the bench boost. Potentially Porro could go after game weeks 1 and 2 where they have Leicester and Everton. And you can all, to be honest, I don't actually hate bench boosting, then wildcarding in maybe 3-4. There's definitely another good strategy to go for, where you bench boost, have the good players, and then bench boost, and then wildcard out of the bench boost. Next up though, I want to talk about Andrew Robertson. Comes in at 6 million. Ideally, you'd want to get Trent, to be honest, with Ipswich away, but he was just a little bit too expensive for this team. But Robertson could be a nice player to go for. 3 goals, 2 assists last season. He's owned over 6% now currently. Clean sheets wasn't the best for Liverpool last season. They did do okay. I think they came 3rd in overall, but not the best, obviously. Robertson, I think will have a good season this season. Under Arne Slot, I think he's going to want two attacking fullbacks, whereas Klopp, towards I guess the latter end of his reign at Liverpool, Robertson was tucking in more to be a centre back. So I do think Robertson will be more attacking this season. Next up, we've got Barco. So a player that is probably key to the bench boost. He comes in at 4 million and he's just over 8% owned. So really, if you're starting a season, you might not want to start with him. So he is the left back for Brighton, but he's obviously only going to play when Estupiñán is out injured, and he is going to be out injured until around game weeks 3 or 4, which could lead perfectly into the wild card. So really, do you want a 4 million defender that's stuck on your bench that's not playing? Probably not. But with a bench boost, absolutely. You get Everton at home for the bench boost, which is a really, really good fixture for Brighton. And for me, he is very attacking as well. And the way Brighton normally play, we don't know obviously because De Zerbi's left and they've got a new manager, but the way they normally play is going to be attacking, and I can definitely see that from Barco. Next up, Dan Burn. Again, if you got the money, go for Trippier, but I didn't with this draft. So 4.5 million, 2 goals, 2 assists last season, and he's just over 23% owned. Only 8 clean sheets for him, which is a little bit disappointing for Newcastle, but I think this season will be better. And like I said, they do start the season really, really well, which is the main thing with this draft. Southampton at home, and then they've got Bournemouth away. And obviously, you got Southampton at home for the bench boost. For me, this is a key, just to reiterate, this is a key factor of this bench boost. You either have to probably deal with, you have to basically use transfers first of all, or you bench boost into a wild card in maybe game week 3 or 4. With this team I've built, it's probably best to wild card in 3 or 4, and you definitely will have more information then, so it could be a good strategy to go for. But for now, I'm just building a bench boost, and you can let me know in the comment section below what you think of that. I've gone for Willy Bolly up next, so comes in at 4.5 million. He's 0.4% owned, so not owned at all. He only started 18 games last season, which could be a factor because he did have a few injuries. But he got 2 goals, 1 assist, and Forest defensively weren't good at all. But this season, they have the same 2 fixtures to start the season as Newcastle do, but just the other way around. So Bournemouth at home for Nottingham Forest, and then Southampton away. Then they also have Wolves, so if you did need to keep him and play him, you could do that up until game week 4, where they do play Liverpool away. Defensively, it's not the best, don't get me wrong, but I've tried to go for attacking defenders. Obviously, Porro, Robertson and Barco are going to cover that part, and Dan Burn does get forward from set pieces, etc. And Willy Bolly is always a threat from corners. If you could, go for Trippier, go for Trent, but this was a bit tight, to be honest, this team. You could end up downgrading Raya potentially and maybe going for Trent. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and we'll get on to the midfield. So now for the midfield, pretty similar with the defence, but with the midfield, I think you've got to risk it. You're playing the bench boost. You want some decent players on your bench, and this is shown by this midfield, to be totally honest with you. It's just an epitome of playing the bench boost and going for it. We'll start off with Jared Bowen, who has Villa at home. Not the best fixture for him, but I think the fact that he's only 7.5 million, he's going to be on pens. He had an incredible season last season, considering it was one of his quieter seasons. 16 goals, 6 assists for him, which is incredible. But obviously the season before that one, he ended up getting 12 goals and 17 assists. So incredible season for him last season. And to be honest, I felt like he didn't really play or had a few injuries, but he was actually very, very good. He's just over 7% owned, so a massive differential. And for me, with Villa at home, Palace away the first 2, you could argue that it's not ideal, but it's still good fixtures. But then they have City, Fulham, Chelsea. So a lot of people are not going to be bringing him in. So for that reason, I think he could be a very nice differential for the bench boost. Next up, Mo Salah, 12.5 million, just over 34% owned. Again, one of his quieter seasons last season with 18 goals, 12 assists. For me, that Ipswich away game is the main reason why you're bringing in Mo Salah. It's a very, very good fixture. Under new manager, he's going to want to impress. And then they've got Brentford at home in game week 2, if you did end up keeping him before you ended up wildcarding, for example. So that is, I think, a very, very good option. And I think he's essential, to be honest, if you are playing the bench boost. You're going to want to target the fixtures. You're not going to want to bench boost players that have tough fixtures, and there's no better fixture than Ipswich away currently, as we view things. Next up, you've got Bruno Fernandes, comes in at 8.5 million. He's just over 14% owned. 10 goals, 9 assists last season. Not bad, but not his best season, obviously, where he did end up getting 18 and 14 assists. For me, Fulham at home, again, it's going to be a tough game for Man United, but I actually do think they're going to turn things around next season, and I think it's going to be involving Bruno Fernandes. I think anything they do that is going to be good is going to involve Bruno Fernandes. And at 8.5 million on pens, on set pieces, I think he could end up being a bargain. And potentially you can play him for at least the first few game weeks with Fulham at home, Brighton away. Then they've got Liverpool at home, and then they've got Southampton away. So potentially the first 4 or 5. But I think it's a very, very attacking option to go for, and a good player to go for if you are on bench boost. Next up, Anthony Gordon, 7.5 million, over 35% owned, which is incredible. And that's definitely to do with their first 2 fixtures, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away. Gordon, what a season last season, 11 goals, 16 assists. And for me, I can see him starting that and doing that even better than that this season, to be totally honest with you. I think he's very good on the bench boost. As you can see with the midfield, you've got Mo Salah as the premium option, but there's no Palmer, there's no Son. I've tried to spread it out so you've got better players across the whole squad and across the bench. And I think that's crucial if you are going to be playing the bench boost in game week 1. Next up, we've got Eberiche Eze, comes in at 7 million, which I think is an absolute bargain. Just over 32% owned. Last season, he only started 24 games, but he got 11 goals, 5 assists, which is very, very good. He's going to be on set pieces. He's going to be on penalties. Elise's now gone, so he's definitely the main man. He was before anyway, personally, but he's definitely the main man. And to be honest, he's going to have to step up even more than he has done recently. And I think he will. And that's 7 million. Someone that's on pens, playing under a Crystal Palace side that's ended the season incredibly well, in incredible form, with Mateta firing, Elise, Eze. I think it's going to be a good year for Palace, and I think Eze is going to be a huge, huge part of that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you agree with the way I've split the funds in the midfield? Yeah, I'd like to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below, and we'll get on to the midfield. The forwards, actually. So that person that did leave me a comment about Kai Havertz last week, I'd like to apologise. So I have got him in this team, the bench boost team, just because I can't afford someone like Bukayo Saka, because I have decided to spread the funds. And I think for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 game weeks, I think Kai Havertz could be a decent option. He comes in at 8 million. He's just over 14% owned. Last season, he was a midfielder, ended up getting 13 assists. 13 goals, 10 assists. He's now classified as a forward, which obviously is not ideal because you're missing a point from the clean sheet and you're missing a point from the goal. That midfielders do get an extra point for a goal. They start the season tough, as I've mentioned, with David Raya. Wolves at home, Villa away, Brighton at home, and then Spurs and City away. But I think Wolves at home and it's going to be a nice fixture for Arsenal, and I think they're going to score a few goals in that one. And I think Havertz is going to get a few as well. So that's why I've got him in the team. Again, this team, personally, I think this team is going to do best if it wildcards in game week 3 or 4, just to get all the players out that you don't need for a bench boost. And then you don't really have to worry about having a strong bench for the rest of the season, to be honest with you. So for me, I think Havertz suits this team to a T. The fact that he's only 8 million, you're covering the Arsenal attack. And yeah, you know he's going to start, really. Next up, we've got Alexander Isak, who's in a lot of teams, and yeah, it's obvious why. He's just over 55% owned, which is incredible. 21 goals, 4 assists for him last season, considering he only started 27 games, is a joke, to be honest with you. 8.5 million, as I've mentioned before, really trying to target Newcastle's first few fixtures. Southampton at home, Bournemouth away is very, very strong. And Isak, when he plays, he scores. It's simple as that. And for me, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I think if you're bench boosting, not bench boosting, get him in your team, to be totally honest with you. Another player that is key on the bench boost, if you notice, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest players are key to this bench boost because they have Bournemouth and Southampton the first 2 games just swapped around. 6 million for Chris Wood, just over 5% owned, which is a massive differential. If we do think he's going to start, I think he can be a nice asset to go for. 14 goals, 1 assist last season in 20 starts. Obviously, Awani is back from injury now, so potentially that could see Chris Wood's minutes deteriorate. But for me, I think he is first choice at Forest in terms of striker. And I think the start of the season with Bournemouth and Southampton in the first 2 games, I think he's a good player to go for. Obviously, the elephant in the room, there's no Erling Haaland in this team. I think the fact that they've got Chelsea away first game, I think is a chance to go against Haaland and then maybe bring him back in game weeks 3. Obviously, you are missing a decent fixture, well, more than decent fixture with Ipswich at home in game week 2. But you can always do transfers, get him back in, maybe take out one of the players, one of the, I guess, expensive players, maybe even Mo Salah, or even take out a Bruno Fernandes and then bring in Haaland with a -4 potentially. But for me, if you're bench boosting in game week 1, you're going to be taking risks, and for me, I think this is the chance to go without Haaland. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This could be a little bit controversial. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.